The studio lights of Lorraine shone brightly as the familiar morning theme faded out. The audience applauded politely, unaware they were about to witness one of the most uncomfortable moments in live British television history. Lorraine Kelly smiled warmly into the camera. "Good morning, everyone. Today, we're delighted to welcome a man who needs no introduction, actor, comedian, and cultural icon, Mr. Rowan Atkinson." The applause grew louder as Rowan walked onto the set. Dressed simply in a dark blazer and crisp white shirt, he nodded courteously, his expression calm, almost reserved. He took his seat opposite Lorraine, folding his hands neatly in his lap. At first, everything felt normal. They spoke about his long career, Mr. Bean, Blackadder, Johnny English. Rowan answered thoughtfully, often pausing before he spoke, choosing his words carefully. He smiled occasionally, but there was a seriousness about him that morning. Lorraine noticed it. "You've always been known for comedy," she said lightly, "but recently you've been more outspoken. Some people say you're becoming quite controversial." Rowan raised an eyebrow slightly. "I wouldn't say controversial," he replied. "I'd say honest." A faint ripple of laughter moved through the audience. Lorraine chuckled, but her eyes narrowed just a fraction. "Well, honesty can upset people too, can't it?" Rowan shifted in his chair. "Only if they're unwilling to listen." The temperature in the studio changed. Lorraine leaned forward, cue card in hand. "Let's talk about that. You've made comments about free speech, comedy being under attack, and, some would say, you've dismissed the feelings of marginalized groups." The audience went quiet. Rowan inhaled slowly. "I haven't dismissed anyone's feelings. I've simply said that comedy must be allowed to explore uncomfortable truths. Without that freedom, it dies." Lorraine smiled tightly. "But surely there's a line, Rowan. A responsibility." "Yes," he said calmly. "The responsibility to think, not to censor." A murmur ran through the audience. A producer off camera shifted uneasily. Lorraine's tone sharpened. "So you're saying people who feel hurt by jokes should just accept it?" Rowan's eyes flicked up, surprised. "That's not what I said. You're simplifying my position." "Well, that's how many people heard it," Lorraine replied. "And some found it quite arrogant." Rowan straightened. "With respect, Lorraine," he said quietly, "I think what's arrogant is deciding that adults are too fragile to hear ideas they disagree with." The studio gasped. Lorraine laughed, but it wasn't warm this time. "Wow, that's a bit condescending, isn't it?" Rowan's jaw tightened. "No. What's condescending is putting words in my mouth to fit a narrative." Silence. Even the cameramen froze. Lorraine crossed her legs, visibly irritated. "You're on a morning show watched by millions. People expect sensitivity. And I expect fairness," Rowan replied. "I agreed to a conversation, not a character assassination." Lorraine blinked. "That's a strong accusation. So is calling someone dangerous for expressing an opinion," he shot back. A producer's voice crackled faintly in Lorraine's earpiece. "Steer it back." "Steer it back." She ignored it. "Rowan, do you accept that some of your views make people feel unsafe?" Rowan stared at her, stunned. "Unsafe?" he repeated softly. "From words?" "Yes," Lorraine said firmly. "Words matter." "They do," Rowan agreed. "Which is why misrepresenting them is so serious." The audience applauded, hesitantly at first, then louder. Lorraine's smile vanished. "So you're saying this show is misrepresenting you?" "I'm saying you are," Rowan replied, voice steady but cold. The tension was now unbearable. Lorraine leaned closer. "If you can't handle tough questions, maybe you shouldn't come on live television." Rowan let out a short, humorless laugh. "I've handled tough questions my entire career. What I won't handle is intellectual dishonesty." The director waved frantically from behind the cameras. Lorraine's cheeks flushed. "That's incredibly rude. And this," Rowan said, gesturing around him, "is incredibly disappointing." Gasps echoed across the studio. Lorraine stood up abruptly. "You know what, Rowan? I think we're done here." Rowan rose slowly from his chair, towering over the moment. "Clearly," he said, "because conversations require listening, not ambush." Lorraine turned to the camera, forcing a smile. "We'll be taking a short break." But before the music could play, Rowan spoke one last time. "For what it's worth," he said calmly, "I came here to talk about comedy. Not to be lectured for thinking independently." Security staff hesitated at the edge of the set. Lorraine's smile cracked. Please escort Mr. Atkinson off the stage. The audience erupted, some applauding, some booing, some frozen in shock. Rowan picked up his jacket, paused, and looked directly into the camera. Comedy survived dictators, he said quietly. I'm sure it'll survive this. Then he walked off. The cameras cut to black. Within minutes, social media exploded. Clips of the confrontation spread like wildfire. Headlines screamed, Rowan Atkinson kicked off Lorraine. Live TV meltdown shocks UK. WHO was really out of line. Backstage, producers argued. Lorraine sat stiffly in her chair, staring at the floor, while Rowan stood in the corridor, calm, but deeply shaken. And this was only the beginning. The moment the studio lights went dark, chaos erupted. Producers rushed across the floor, voices overlapping, headsets crackling with panic. Lorraine Kelly remained frozen in her chair, staring at the blank monitor in front of her. Her hands trembled slightly as she placed the cue cards on the table. That wasn't supposed to happen, she muttered. In the corridor outside the studio, Rowan Atkinson stood silently, jacket draped over his arm. A young production assistant approached hesitantly. Mr. Atkinson, are you all right? Rowan nodded, though his eyes told a different story. I'm fine, he said softly. I'm just disappointed. Within 10 minutes, the clip was everywhere. Twitter, now X, erupted. TikTok edits appeared almost instantly. Hashtags began to trend. Hashtag stand with Rowan. Hashtag Lorraine meltdown. Hashtag free speech on TV. One viral clip zoomed in on Rowan's face as he said, intellectual dishonesty. Another slowed down Lorraine's expression as she ordered security. Millions watched. Millions argued. By lunchtime, the UK media had chosen sides. The backlash. Piers Morgan tweeted. Rowan Atkinson said what many think but are afraid to say. Embarrassing handling by daytime TV. A well-known comedian wrote, if Mr. Bean isn't allowed to speak freely, what chance does anyone else have? But not everyone agreed. A popular columnist fired back. Atkinson showed his privilege today. Lorraine asked fair questions. The nation was split. Meanwhile, ITV executives were in emergency meetings. Advertising partners demanded answers. One sponsor quietly pulled out of the next episode. Ratings for Lorraine that afternoon. The highest in 2 years. Lorraine breaks her silence. That evening, Lorraine released a statement on Instagram. Live television can be challenging. My job is to ask difficult questions and give voice to those who feel unheard. I regret if today's conversation became uncomfortable, but I stand by my commitment to accountability. Comments flooded in, thousands per minute. You humiliated a legend. You didn't listen. He walked because you wouldn't let him speak. Lorraine read them all. Behind the scenes, she was shaken. This is getting out of hand, she told a producer. He made me look like a villain. The producer hesitated. No, he said quietly. The cameras did. Rowan speaks. For 2 days, Rowan Atkinson said nothing. No tweets. No interviews. No statements. Then, on the third morning, the BBC aired a short pre-recorded segment during the news. Rowan sat alone in a simple room. No makeup. No audience. I don't enjoy conflict, he began. I never have. I'm a comedian because I believe laughter brings people together. He paused. But comedy cannot exist where fear replaces curiosity. I was invited to speak, yet I was judged before I finished my sentences. His voice wavered, not with anger, but sadness. I don't believe people are weak. I believe they're strong enough to hear ideas they dislike. The clip ended. No insults. No attacks. Just calm truth. The public reaction was immediate. Support poured in from actors, writers, even former TV hosts. An online petition calling for an on-air apology surpassed 500,000 signatures in 24 hours. The twist. 3 days later, ITV made an announcement. Rowan Atkinson would appear on another daytime show, but not as a guest. As a guest host, for a one-off special on comedy, culture, and free expression. The irony was impossible to miss. Lorraine was reportedly informed after the press release went live. Sources claimed she was furious. That special aired a week later. Ratings broke records. Rowan opened the show with a quiet smile and one line. Let's try listening this time. The audience stood and applauded. The aftermath. Lorraine returned to air the following Monday. The tone was noticeably softer. Questions were more careful, interruptions fewer. The industry had learned something. And Rowan, he returned to what he loved most, making people laugh. But this time, the laughter carried weight. Because sometimes, the funniest people are also the bravest.